Hello, and welcome to FIL Seoul. I'm sorry I can be with you in person today. I had a great time at FIL Seoul last year, and I look forward to coming again sometime soon. It was really great to meet all of the Korean community there. I hope to see some of you at FIL Singapore or FIL Bangkok later this year. What I wanted to do today is just talk about some Falcon updates for 2024. So I'll share my screen. First off, I wanted to give a huge thank you to Timo, all the folks who organized, sponsored, or are coming to speak at FIL Seoul. Thank you, Timo, and thank you to everybody who made this possible. The reason I can't be with you today is that I've been at a month-long pop-up city in Argentina. This turned into a very large movement. You can find out about it online. There's a very large amount of momentum in Buenos Aires. If you're a developer working on crypto applications, you should strongly consider checking this movement out and consider Buenos Aires. So what I want to talk about today is these 5 things. So first off, I'll give a sense of the Falcon goals in 2024. I'll talk about FEM, IPC, and L2s. I'll give some thoughts on storage and retrieval updates. Then I'll talk about the dev community. And I'll finish by talking about some of the Falcon events that are coming in Q4. So just in case anybody's new to Falcon, Falcon is a crypto-powered storage network. It operates by bringing together a marketplace of storage providers and storage clients. Storage providers add storage capacity onto the network, and storage clients hire the storage providers to store their data. The mission of Falcon is to create a decentralized, efficient, and robust foundation for humanity's information. There's a lot that goes into a protocol like this. So of course, other talks on the internet explain Falcon in much more detail. The network has been focused on this Falcon master plan, where step 1 is to build the world's largest decentralized storage network. We've achieved that over the last few years, thanks to really the tremendous storage provider community around the world. Step 2 is to onboard and safeguard humanity's data. So this means onboarding lots of the data in the world onto the Falcon network. There's an enormous amount of momentum on this. The network has been storing now over an exabyte of data, which is really amazing. And step 3 is to bring compute to the data. So this means enable clients to be able to run functions and run applications on top of the data stored in the network. This should enable web scale applications. You can think of Falcon as having a range of businesses. Think of the Web3 storage market or Web2 storage market. Then also think of Falcon as powering a whole range of applications or potentially even whole blockchain L2s. And you can model the Falcon economy as an island economy. You can think of internal transactions in that economy as being able to services transacting in the FIL token. You can think of consumption in that economy as token burns. So this might be FEM gas use, storage fees, and similar kinds of things. And then you can think of the island economy as having a range of exports and a range of imports. Exports is when the Falcon network sells storage or other services to the rest of the world, to other economies, and brings in value into the network. Imports are when Falcon network participants must bring in some other values. They might have to sell FIL in order to be able to pay for operation expenditures and so on. So really the economy grows when the internal transactions are high, or when the consumption is high, or when the exports are higher than the imports. A lot of the network is focused on trying to optimize itself and reduce storage costs, reduce the operational costs, so that we can create exports at a much cheaper rate. And then you can think of that economy as being embedded in a much larger landscape with many other economies. You can think of the archival storage market or the CDN market or the cloud object storage market and so on. These markets are massive. We're talking tens to hundreds of billions of dollars per year. And if Falcon can accrue a sizable percentage of those markets, then the economy of the Falcon network will thrive. Zooming in a little bit into this, where a lot of the network has been focused on this year is to first lower network costs. So this means reducing the cost for storage providers, bring in new funding for network businesses, or figure out how to more efficiently fund OpEx directly in FIL without having to leave the network and go into other economies or other currencies. And then at the same time, to be able to greatly increase paid adoption of the network. So this means making reliable retrievals the standard for clients, because clients really require retrievability in order to be able to use the network, supporting easier and faster on-ramps, and turning a lot of the large-scale users of Falcon into great paying storage clients with recurring business for the network. And then around this, we also want to increase the utilization of the network by creating high-value applications, storage and compute L2 networks, and increasing the amount of transactions that are tracked directly on-chain. A lot of the storage transactions tend to happen off-chain, and it would be great to be able to see all of that sales pipeline directly on-chain. There's lots of different teams working across the Falcon network, each with their own goals, but they roughly fall into a range of, they're roughly oriented around this set of goals. Again, reducing network OpEx, improving retrievability, making storage simpler, faster, and more reliable, onboard paying users, build high-value applications, and build high-value compute-heavy networks and L2s. Great. So that's a snapshot of where the Falcon community has been focused in 2024. Now I'll dive into the compute side of things. In order to bring compute to the data, we first needed to build the FEM and launch it in the network. That happened last year. Since then, we've seen a whole wave of applications being built on top of Falcon. including a lot of really critical DeFi constructs to support storage providers. So this might be leasing markets or other kind of capital markets or other kinds of financial structures. Then using the FEM, we can build lots of compute networks. So think of compute over data networks like Bacalao and others building around the Filecoin network. And then we can use IPC, which is a blockchain scaling solution, in order to be able to build a range of L2 networks in and around Filecoin. So this might mean bringing scalability to the network through building subnets in Filecoin. FEM in general, it has enabled a whole range of applications from perpetual and automatic storage to CDNs to compute networks and more. And now we're entering this strong new phase for Filecoin where there's a range of L2s being built. Some of these L2s are for improving the storage tier, so adding a hot storage tier or a CDN tier. Some of these L2s are for bringing compute to the data. So this might mean being able to run certain kinds of compute jobs or being able to do some machine learning, run some machine learning jobs or things like that. The IPC protocol that I mentioned earlier is this infrastructure project in order to be able to support lots of different kinds of L2 networks building with and around Filecoin. One of the really cool network first adopters of this protocol is Fluence, which is a compute network built on IPC and Filecoin. It's an L2, and you can use it to run all kinds of computations on top of your data, or not. I can use whatever computation you want through Fluence. And one of the things that I'm particularly excited about here is to be able to use the Fluence network to do a lot of the data prep involved in storing data in Filecoin. So imagine being able to call out to the Fluence nodes to process the data, then store it in Filecoin. And then if you need to run some job on top of that, like maybe filter data or do some data analysis or whatever, being able to use the Fluence nodes. There's also a range of storage L2s coming online later this year. First and foremost is Texel Basin, which is a building on top of IPC and creating a lot of very fast storage subnets. Then there's also Storacha, which is very focused on hot storage here and has been built on top of the Web3 storage protocol. And then Akave, which is also an L2 oriented towards being able to store large scale data and run certain kinds of computations on top of. So that'll be a really exciting range of things happening later this year and next year. It'll be, and this is just the beginning of a whole range of L2s that we anticipate coming into the network. So you can think of lots of different kinds of storage and compute operations and services being able to be added to the Filecoin network through L2s. Great. Let's talk about storage, retrieval, and data now. This is a Filecoin storage and retrieval lifecycle. You can think of clients storing their data through on-ramps with source providers, and then being able to retrieve the data through retrieval providers. The flow sort of works like this. The reason we need on-ramps is because data storage is the process of storing data is very different depending on the size of the data or the use case. And sometimes you need dedicated platforms or dedicated software to orient and tune the application to that use case. Same thing with retrieval. Sometimes you need specific kinds of latency requirements or caching in particular locations, or you're actually retrieving massive amounts of data. In that case, you need a kind of dedicated service that can help you retrieve petabytes at a time or something like that. Now, in the storage flow, there's some of the recent improvements that have happened recently is through NV23 that I'll talk more about later. But the major thing here is we first got non-interactive 4EP, which is a really key component in decreasing the cost and latency of data onboarding. And we got Super Seal, which enables dramatically faster, cheaper, and scalable data onboarding. So these two things have greatly reduced the storage costs and the latency of adding data on the network. And on top of this, people are building these Web3 data on-ramps, and they're significantly dropping the cost of being able to onboard large amounts of data. On the retrieval side, we've seen a very strong focus in the last few months in getting the retrieval checking networks running. So the Spark protocol was designed last year and has been launched this year to be able to do retrieval checking across the entirety of the network. Now it's auditing all FIL plus deals for retrievability. And we've seen one of the really cool things we've seen is that the SPs that are focused on improving the retrieval success have effectively gotten there. We have been seeing dramatic improvement in a range of SPs. Now, a lot of SPs are still not yet focused on this, mostly because the retrieval checking isn't yet wired up to incentives. But as soon as that happens, once checking starts affecting the incentives, we expect to see all SPs starting to follow this kind of process. Strong recommendation for SPs out there to really pay attention to this and make sure that the storage that you are providing passes the Spark retrieval checks. We've also improved the FIL plus allocator system. There's now lots of different possible allocators, and there's also requests for allocators out there to support many different kinds of applications. And maybe one last thing is that we are building a new proof of data position primitive to be able to have a very fast and cheap storage proof for hot storage, though this does not give you the whole proof of replication proof. At the very least, it can give you a confidence that participants are able to access the hot copy of the data whenever the proof is run. And the network continues to grow a ton with lots of different clients. I'm particularly excited about massive scale data sets. So think of massive scale scientific data being added to the network with strong verifiability, and then being able to run large scale data analysis on top of this. We're also starting to see a range of blockchains starting to look at using Filecoin to archive all of the state of the network. The one really great thing that happened early this year was Solana. I think it might have been late last year. Was Solana adopting Filecoin in order to be able to back up all of its state. If we look at the storage onboarding stats, they've been tremendously stable over the last year, which is pretty interesting. So one thing is a lot of the network has an enormous amount of excess capacity right now. The network is adding a lot of data into the network on the order of 3 petabytes a day, but that on-ramp of data is on the order of 1.5 exabytes now. So that means there's an enormous amount of empty capacity. And because the data is not coming online fast enough to consume all of that capacity is just expiring. And so we're seeing a lot of that capacity drop off the network. The QAP is sustaining around 23 exabytes of QAP over the last year, which is really interesting to see. It's just basically been flat as empty capacity rolls off the network, and we're starting to just focus on storing data. This is great to see because SPs are really focusing on actually getting the data stored. One recommendation for storage providers here is to focus on the following 3 things. One is really decrease your OpEx costs to be able to deal with all the different volatility in the markets. So this means take advantage of the massive cost reductions that have been appearing thanks to the protocol improvements like non-interactive POREP, Super Seal, and so on. You can leverage lots of different software distributions here, Curio and Ramo, that take advantage of these systems. And it's really cool to see that now it's actually possible to run a whole Filecoin SP on a laptop. There was a really cool demo of this earlier in the year. Thing to focus on, number 2, is to focus on onboarding paying clients and provide retrievals to them. So this means really work on getting paid deals and customers for your storage provider business. There's lots of different pipelines with deals like dStore and others, which you can leverage in order to be able to get a pipeline of deals. And really pay attention to the Spark retrieval metrics and get your storage providing in order, as the checking is going to move into later phases. And then the Spark protocol is going to start getting weaved into incentives. And number 3, lean into DeFi to support your business. So there's now a lot of different DeFi protocols and systems in order to support the growth of your business, whether it's to raise capital or to get FIL leases in order to be able to have FIL for pledge, or ideally focus on charging for the storage in FIL or FIL-backed stablecoins. So one really important thing here is that when storage providers sell storage in a currency that is not FIL or something that is not impacting the FIL economy, then effectively all of that storage is happening outside of the economy and it isn't supporting the growth of the network. So we want to try and move most of the storage deals to happen directly on the blockchain to be able to improve the economy. And one major thing here that will help down the road is, first of all, the appearance of this FIL-backed stablecoin. There's a range of folks working on this, especially the secured finance folks, which is really exciting. And then second, lean into, there's going to be a major upgrade coming soon with fast finality to be able to unlock really fast cross-net bridging and liquidity, which this should enable the FIL capital markets to be able to connect to the capital markets in Ethereum and in other places in order to be able to bring a lot of funding to support the storage providers. Great. Now, talking about that community for a bit. So first off, I'd recommend checking out PL Andres The Gathering. This is a monthly call that happens between a range of teams. It's recorded and put online, and you can see it in the Protocol Labs YouTube channel. This has updates from a whole bunch of different projects and a lot of different teams. So if you're interested in a lot of the details, I highly recommend checking. One major thing that happened recently is the network upgraded to NB23. This is the waffle upgrade. This includes this includes a whole range of changes, including adding BLS signatures, making some changes to some of the minor actor protocols. And crucially, it adds an non-interactive POREP and sets up success for fast finality, where the whole goal there will be to significantly reduce the finality time from many hours down to approximately a minute. You can also see the broad community roadmap. There's a whole range of groups focused on storage adoption and being able to do hot storage. There's a whole range of groups working on building tooling and improving systems and improving the operations for storage providers. And there's a whole set of groups focused on growth and adoption of Filecoin. And over 11 independent Filecoin public goods teams launched early this year. This includes Phil Oz, Curio, Phil Ponto, and many more. These are fully separate independent teams that are working across the Filecoin network, working on many different components, whether it's tools for running the network or on-ramps or crypto econ analysis or many different kinds of things in the network. So huge kudos to the teams this year. One thing that I'm personally super excited about is the Filecoin Retro BGF round 2. So we ran one round earlier this year, super successful. This enabled a whole range of Filecoin badge holders to deploy instead of funding to the projects in the Filecoin network that they thought were having the most impact. And so we're kicking off this structure to be able to have the network fund the things that the network thinks are valuable. So if you're interested in helping decide how the funding gets allocated, definitely participate in FIL PGF and apply to become a batch holder and so on. And if you're working on a project that helps improve the network, definitely make sure to apply. There's a whole range of things coming in round two. Round two is going to be bigger than round one. It's going to be faster, and we should be able to see different kinds of scoring functions coming online in this round. There's a request for high impact applications in specific areas. So things like data on-ramps, apps that increase the usability of Filecoin, FEM on-chain payments, advances in fundamental protocol, research and development, new connections with other ecosystems, and strong tools like high quality RPCs, explorers, dashboards, and more. The applications are going to kick off in mid-September. Definitely check that out. And also want to give a plug for FIL Builders, which is a community, which is a team focused on supporting developers building on Filecoin. So definitely check out their resources too, if you're a dev working with Filecoin and so on. One last one I'd like to mention is the PL Dev Guild. The Dev Guild works with a specific set of projects and supports the coaching of many of the open source contributors contributing to that project. Think of this as Google Summer Code, but instead it's the whole year, and you can get really strong contributors to your project. So if you're interested in either getting some contributors to help you with your project, or whether you're an individual contributor who would be excited to work on the guild, check it out and think about participating in the upcoming cohorts. So there's going to be a ton of Filecoin events in Q4, starting in September. You're currently at FIL Seoul, which is awesome. Later on this month, a lot of us will be in FIL Singapore. This is around Token 2049, and there will be lots of different events, deepen events, Filecoin SP meetups. There will be a whole set of talks around Filecoin and more. Then in November, a lot of the community will be in Thailand, especially a lot of the core protocol developers. Many of us will be at Edge City Lana, which is a pop-up city happening between October and November. Most of the core devs will be at the Filecoin Dev Summit, which is the 5th time we run it. It's a really awesome conference. I'll talk about it a bit more in a moment. We'll also have major events with Lab Week 23 and with DevCon. And of course, FIL Bangkok is the thing that sort of wraps it all together for the Filecoin community. So I hope to see you out there either in Singapore or Thailand. And again, I'm really sorry that I couldn't be with you today in Seoul. So FIL Dev Summit number 5 is happening. This is a great conference for everybody working in the core of the stack, working on the protocols, working on key applications, and so on. Please consider coming. This is always extremely useful. You can find all of the recordings of the past ones on the Filecoin YouTube channel. Lots of projects that I talked about today started at the Filecoin Dev Summit. And this is also phenomenal for anybody who is a new developer in the Filecoin stack to learn and meet a lot of the people building the tools they use. Consider coming to FIL Dev Summit. I mentioned Edge City Lana and Lab Week. These are 2 large-scale events with a lot of other participants and other communities and other projects. We'll have a Filecoin Hacker House across both of these. Check that out if you're interested in working closely with the Filecoin core devs. Great. So that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed all of FIL Seoul today. I'm very excited to hear about it later on and watch the talks online. And again, thank you very much for being here, and thank you to Timo and the organizers. Goodbye.